Please join me. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's good to see all of you in a week where Shabbat couldn't come soon enough, given everything that's going on around the world and here at home. Shabbat, though, is our chance to sort of step back from that, to remind ourselves that the world doesn't have to always be this way, that we have options and choices to make if we can find a way to work in partnership with each other and with God. We're going to start with the Shabbat candle lighting on page 120. Ari, would you do us the honor? It's okay. Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks. You know, I operate under the theory that if you ask somebody to do something with a lot of lead time, a lot of people just get nervous about it. And it's not really going to affect it. So Ari, thank you. Ari, who had been, up until 2 years ago, teaching our kids in our school. It's good to see you back in town. We're going to continue with singing Lecha Dodi, which you can find on page 138 of the Siddur.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat mekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat mekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat mekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Tishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, L'shem ol לתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Verse 2. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, 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 כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נקרא. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Please rise.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Please remain standing as we turn to page 144 for the Reader's Kaddish, and we'll follow the cantor as he leads us into the main portion of the service.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ועלמא דברכותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. פקלה, פקלה, ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא ויאמרו
Amen. Page 146. And we continue thanking God for the wonder of nature at the top of page 149. And please join me. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide.
Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Page 150. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amecha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadita, Otanu limadita. Alekein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu, U'v'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatecha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem kevod malchuto le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated. And we continue with chanting of the V'ahavta on page 154.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarata bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'aderech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem.
Let's continue together at the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 158.
Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Lord tehilot osefele, Lord tehilot osefele, malechutecha ra'u Moshe u'Miriam, Zeili, Zeili, Anu ve'amiru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Ai bai bim bidi bam, yaba bai bai bim bam. Ai bim bidi bam, yaba bai bai bim bam. Ay, ya ba bye bye bim bam. Ay, ya ba bye bye bim bam. V'nemar gifet Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ka'al Yisrael.
And please join me in the middle of page 160. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing.
For you, God,
Watch over us and deliver us.
For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 162.
V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, לדורותם ברית עולם.
On page 164, we rise and join together in the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו משני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומתעודה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ולמען אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. And if you would, let's continue together at the top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth.
May all who struggle find rest on this day.
May all who suffer find solace.
May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day.
And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 175 at the top. Please join me. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayers, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levadcha bir'ah na'avod. And together on 177. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words.
For the awareness of soul,
Our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty,
for the richness of the earth,
which day by day sustains us.
For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot.
Page 178.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amecha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel and all people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael ba shalom. And we'll take just a few moments for private prayer and reflection. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We continue with the Misha Beirach for healing, a prayer for our friends and loved ones. We can find that on page 371 in the Siddur, and we're thinking especially of the following. Diana Aldort, family of Robert Basson, Sarah bat Besiva ben Bracha bat Miriam, Rivka Fegi bat Phyllis, Sapira bat Yehudit, Sandy Brady, Marilyn Beach, Emily Beer, Simcha Meir bat Ben Esther Malka, Yosef Carrasco, Moshe ben Chaya Sarah, Yosef ben Lily, Kevin Boland, Katie Peltz Davis, Leonore Friedman, Lisa Frolkis, Susie Garrison, Marianne Gehrig, David Goldenholtz, Greg Harris, Jennifer Houston, Robert Israel, Didem Eater, Michelle Jacoby, Ann Copeland, Catherine Lamb, Rory Langlois, Joseph Marcus, Jack Marvin, Jim McDermott, Karen McDermott, Kathy Manchero, Don Metzke, Robert Neno, Bill Nikud, Vicky Padway, Bob Ratke, Mosi Ramirez, Marcia Reese, Bill Ross, Martha Ross, and Micah Ross, Ed Schwartz, Gary Siegel, Susan Armour Seidman, Herb Selden, Jim Theron, Dietrich Fishberg, and Pat Koster. If there are others of whom you're aware who could use our prayers for healing, I ask you to hold them close to you in your heart as together we sing.
Mekol habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We've just hit Shloshim, the 30th day after the death of some 1,200 people in Otef Aza, the area around the Gaza Strip. If you're interested in my thoughts and feelings about that, I spoke about it in depth this past week, and it is in the e-news. There's, I think, the third item in the e-news is a few readings, selections and things about what's going on right now. And I added in, if you want to read Rabbi Cohen's thing, press here. So instead, I'm going to talk about a historical event that happens to coincide with today, and that is what occurred 85 years ago on the nights of November 7th and 10th, 9th and 10th. It was called Kristallnacht in German, meaning the night of the broken glass. Nazi followers organized throughout the cities of Germany and Austria and began a rampage that destroyed Jewish businesses and synagogues. In all, over 1,000 synagogues were burned, 7,000 Jewish businesses were trashed and looted, 96 Jews were killed, and hundreds were injured. And approximately 30,000 Jewish men and boys were arrested and sent to concentration camps. Now, what exactly sparked Kristallnacht. Herschel Greenspan was a 17-year-old Jewish boy living in Paris. His parents were still in Germany, and they were forced to flee their hometown because they were, in fact, Polish-born Jews. The Polish authorities, however, refused to accept their Jewish citizens, leaving thousands of refugees stranded on the border between the two countries in limbo. Distraught upon hearing the fate of his family, young Herschel sought revenge by assassinating really, a German diplomat by the name of Ernst von Rath. The incident was used by the Nazis as a pretext to justify the violence of Kristallnacht by making it seem spontaneous, even though every aspect of it was planned to the details, down to every button by the Nazis. The damage done was 5 million marks, which in today's dollars would be about $44 million. Shockingly, the Jews were expected to pay the cost of the damage to their property, plus a fine levied on the Jewish community of 1 billion Reichsmarks, which today is equivalent to just a little bit below $9 billion. The world was silent in response to Kristallnacht, and that gave Hitler the green light to proceed. One wonders if things might have gone slightly differently if the world had spoken up. At the age of 11, Gerald Liebenau was a Berliner attending public school until Jewish students were forced to leave in 1936. He recalled, "All this was going on, and then Kristallnacht came, when a mass movement took place in all of Germany, and the target were the Jews. And not only did they smash all the windows of every store that was Jewish, they also set every synagogue on fire that they could get away with. My father has a letter from the rabbi of the synagogue that we attended. And in this letter, he described what happened at the synagogue that night. He was called by the caretaker of the building, who was not Jewish, and said to him, 'Rabbi, our synagogue is on fire.' He rushed to the scene and saw how the firemen had come down and were hosing down the buildings just adjacent to the synagogue on either side. No one tried to put out the fire in the synagogue. Evidently, orders had gone out to every fire station in Germany that when a synagogue was aflame, you should let it burn." A retired firefighter remembers that night this way. "The alarm went off between 5 and 5:30 a.m., and as usual, I jumped on my bicycle towards the firehouse. I had a strange feeling when I got there and saw many people standing in front of it. I was not allowed to go into the firehouse to take the engines out or even to open the doors. One of my friends who lived next to the synagogue whispered to me, 'Be quiet, the synagogue is burning.' I was beaten up already when I wanted to put out the fire." Only after one of the Nazi Party members was worried that his house was going to catch fire were we allowed to use water. But even then, we just had to stand and watch until the house of prayers was reduced to rubble and ashes. Michael Bruce, a non-Jewish Englishman, provided another eyewitness account. "As we reached the synagogue and halted on the fringe of the mob, flames began to rise from one end of the building. It was the signal for a wild cheer. The crowd surged forward and greedy hands tore seats and woodwork from the buildings to feed the flames. Behind us, we heard more shouts. Turning, we saw a section of the mob start off along the road toward a Jewish store where, during the day, piles of granite cubes had been heaped, ostensibly for road repair. Young men and women, howling deliriously, hurled the blocks through the windows and at the closed doors. In a few minutes, the doors gave way, and the mob, shouting and fighting, surged inside to pillage and loot. We turned back towards the Jewish store, but now the crowd, eager for fresh conquests, was pouring down a side street towards the outskirts of the city. We hurried after them in time to see one of the foulest exhibitions of bestiality I have ever witnessed. The object of the mob's hate was a hospital for sick Jewish children, the Dinslaken Orphanage. many of them cripples or consumptives. In minutes, the windows had been smashed and the door forced. When we arrived, the swine were driving the wee mites, I guess those are the little kids, out over the broken glass, barefooted and wearing nothing but their nightshirts. The nurses, doctors, and attendants were being kicked and beaten by the mob's leaders, most of whom were women. Yitzhak Hirsch offers additional eyewitness testimony. At 7 a.m., he relayed, began the morning service in the orphanage's synagogue. Some people from the town usually participated, but this day nobody turned up. At about 7:30 a.m., I ordered 46 people, among them 32 children, into the dining hall of the orphanage and told them this. As you know, last night, a Herr von Rath, a member of the German embassy in Paris, was assassinated. The Jews are held responsible for his murder. During the next few hours, there will certainly be anti-Semitic excesses. This will happen even in our town. It is my feeling and my impression that we German Jews have not experienced such calamity since the Middle Ages. Be strong, trust in God. I'm sure we will withstand even these hard times. Nobody will remain in the rooms of the upper floor of the building. The exit door to the street will be opened only by myself. At 9:30 a.m., the bell at the main gate rang persistently. I opened the door. About 50 men stormed into the house. At first, they rushed into the dining room, which fortunately was empty, and there they began their work of destruction. The frightened and fearful cries of the children resounded through the building. I shouted, "Children, go out into the street immediately." I thought that in the street, in a public place, we might be in less danger than inside the house. The children immediately ran down a small staircase at the back, most of them without hat or coat, despite the cold and wet weather. We tried to reach the next street crossing, which was close to Town Hall, where I intended to ask for police protection. About 10 policemen were stationed there, reason enough for the mob to await the next development, which was not long in coming. The senior police officer shouted at us, "Jews do not get protection from us. Vacate the area together with your children as quickly as possible." He then chased us back to a side street in the direction of the backyard of the orphanage. As I was unable to hand over the key to the back gate, the policeman drew his bayonet and forced open the door. I then said to him, "The best thing is to kill me and the children, then our ordeal will be over quickly." He responded to my suggestion merely with a cynical laugh. He then drove all of us to the wet lawn of the orphanage garden and gave us strict orders not to leave the place under any circumstances. Facing the back of the building, we were able to watch how everything in the house was being systematically destroyed under the supervision of the men of law and order, the police. At short intervals, we could hear the crunching of glass or the hammering against wood as windows and doors were broken. Books, chairs, beds, tables, linen, chests, parts of a piano, and maps were thrown through apertures in the wall, which a short while ago had been windows or doors. In Germany, as you can find elsewhere in Europe, there are brass plaques embedded in the street in front of buildings where Jews lived and were taken from in World War II. They're called Stolperstein. You can find them all over Europe. And customarily, they are polished once a year on Kristallnacht. 85 years ago to the day of Kristallnacht, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said he was, quote, "ashamed and outraged at a recent wave of anti-Semitic incidents in Germany, warning Berlin would not tolerate such anti-Jewish behavior." The very synagogue where Scholz was speaking was attacked with Molotov cocktails in a surge of anti-Semitic incidents that followed the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, and the subsequent Israeli retaliation. May more peaceful days await us ahead. Amen.
As part of our service this evening, as a tribute to the once thriving German Jewish community and wider European Jewish community, I'm going to sing a setting of Hinei Matov by the composer Solomon Zolzer, who was alive from 1804 to 1890, that would have been well known in the time and place that he was writing, and is still well known today in some corners of the Jewish musical world. This setting is somewhat paradigmatic of the height of the European synagogue music tradition. It is an original composition, but it's written with great concern for the text and for the interpretation of the text, and one can feel the yearning that's present in the music. The text of Hinei Matov declares how good it is when siblings dwell together in community. In the preface to Shir Tzion, the book from which this setting is taken, Zolzer did note that he made the ennobling of synagogue music the task of his life. And given the range, I think, of the music he wrote, I think he did live up to it. Anyway, Hinei Matov by Solomon Zolzer.
We are going to conclude this service, first with Yalenu, which you can find on page 586 of the Siddur. We'll have a chance for the mourner's Kaddish as well. And we'll have a few announcements from a member of the board of the synagogue and then blessing over wine and challah. For now, on page 586, please rise and join us in facing the ark.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
On page 598, you can find the Kaddish. We think especially the Shabbat of Margot Hirsch, who was laid to rest this past month. The following who have members of our congregation saying Kaddish for them in this year following the death: Jim Stillman, James Karolowitz, John Labotsky, Kermit Bott, Ruth Lowenstein, Foster Padway, Geraldine Schmidman, Jack Zivel, Jacqueline Wagner, Doris Gendelman, Harriet Hackman, Mary Ann Greenebaum, Robert Sanderson, Shirley Slomowitz, Ronald Abel, Len Lowasser, Dick Strauss, Jim Ansfield, Natalie Winowich, Carol Ann Willems, Tom Yanni, Victor Robb, Dr. Hermes Hoffman, Nicholas Winowich, Leanne Borkovitz, Tom St. John, Morty Blutstein, Barbara Wyman, Ralph Marshall Gorin, Edith Lank, Susan Melanie Siegel, Don Polachek, and Bev Colton. We think of those whose yearly anniversary of death or yahrzeit we mark this week. Francis Berzowski, Aaron Bach, Lee Cherniak, Ateret Cohn, Bertha Goldberger, Melvin Goldberger, Howard Gordon, Bertheld Hefter, John Joseph Higgins, Penny Houle, Madeline Julius, Arthur Coven, Norman Lieb, Marilyn Look, Dorothy Labotsky, Harry Luck, Edith Meyer, Jack Meyer, Harold Nemson, Lillian Peck, Francis Perlstein, Florence May Potts, Anna Rosenberg, Betty Shapiro, Howard James Cecil Jr., Emily Cecil, and Beverly Sticks. We take into our hearts and make room as well for those who were killed on October 7th, and all the men, women, and children, both in Palestine and in Israel, who are suffering during this current conflict. If there's anyone you would be saying Kaddish for, either someone, a friend or relative who died recently, or a friend or relative whose anniversary of death falls this week, whose name I didn't mention, I would ask you please to share aloud those names at this time. We continue with Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'gala u'vizman kariv v'yimaru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei t'kudesha b'richu la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
May the source of peace, who makes peace in the highest heavens, enable us to learn how to make peace here on earth. May God bless all of those in mourning with a measure of consolation and comfort. And together we say,
Amen.
Please be seated.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Michael Hall. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees for Congregation Sinai. And we are grateful for contributions made this week to our Sinai community in memory of Francis Brzezowski, Harold Nemsum, Robert Goldstein, Emily Cecil, Harry Luck, and Howard Cecil Jr. And in honor of Jen and Ari Friedman, and I'm going to make one correction to the announcements before, that my wife is fine, that it's the yahrzeit for my mom, Miriam Hall. Okay, and then join us, back to the announcements. Join us for the following upcoming programs. Tabletop Games has been postponed. Please read the Sinai newsletter for future updates. Itsy Bitsy Sinai, which is for birth through 4, is Sunday, November 12th, 10:15 a.m. at Sinai. And please RSVP to Natalie. Brit Nashim meeting Monday, November 13th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. All Sinai women are welcome and encouraged to join. Sages Zen Autumn Leaves, a guided art and Brian wellness class, is Wednesday, November 15th from 1 to 2:30 via Zoom. Register through the Sinai newsletter, Zoom link to follow. Please register by November 8th, which was 2 days ago. Introductory Judaism for Adults, What They Never Told You in Religious School with Rabbi David Cohen, Sunday, November 19th, 10 a.m. to 11:55. Free for members, non-members $54, and call the office to register. Also, please refer to the Tuesday and Friday Sinai e-news for the latest Sinai program and information. And any of the items that I listed on here I read about. If you want to know more details on it and how to register, read the Sinai e-blast. There's a lot there, but it's worth it. And Shabbat Shalom.
I want to give a special hello to students who are here from Pius 11th High School. If I understand this correctly, some of your cohort were here a couple of weeks ago. So we sort of split up the class, but we're glad you're here. And I would ask you when we're done with the service in just a minute, if you would come up and have a seat in the front. We'll have a chance to chat a little bit. Shall we? On page 123 is the blessing for Friday evening Kiddush wine. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'yava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemase v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikrae kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim B'Shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uv'ratzon הנחלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת לחיים.
Chaim. And please join us in the blessing over bread, over challah.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המוציא לחם מן הארץ בתיאבון.
Excellent. B'tei Avon, everybody. We'll bring this challah out here. This is one of Jillian Rogers' very, very healthy chalot. And you should try it if you haven't. In the meantime, have a good week, everybody. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.